Okay, guys, another pro replay here, brought to you by Matu on Secret. This is Secret versus Enigma, and we're going to talk about what we see on this Battle Fury Ursa that we've been seeing a lot in NA pubs. Matu, one of the few very high-skill players in the world that I see outside of NA that's been doing it in competitive.
Banana slam jam.
The idea behind it is that Ursa, ever since they removed the mana regen talent at 10, kind of just has regen issues. There's really no like one item other than Battle Fury that solves this problem. And this hero also has kind of fallen off late game. Like if he doesn't get the farm that other heroes can get, like his natural kit doesn't have the capabilities to farm like others. And then on top of that, he's a hero that can participate in the game, whether or not that's like controlling a lane because he's really strong, threatening Roche, even participating in fights somewhat. Just having a Battle Fury. Like, just because Ursa goes Battle Fury doesn't mean I'm like, this guy's a weak shit. It's not like an anti-mage with a Battle Fury, and I can just pick on him. I actually have to be somewhat scared of an Ursa with a Battle Fury. So that's a lot about the idea behind Battle Fury. For all the people who are going to come to my Twitch chat and ask me, why Ursa Battle Fury, BSJ? Good CSing under tower. Great thing you can do with Ursa is obviously Fury swiping a creep to set it up for more damage. Effectively just increasing your base damage by 9. New skill build is pretty much just 404. I've seen people put like one value point in overpower, but the other two abilities are just too good. Utilizing his Earth Shock to secure any creep that he feels like is going to get contested. A lot of times you can like hit the creep like he's doing to set it up for damage, and if the opponent tries to deny it, you can actually just Earth Shock onto it. So you obviously can't do that too much, but since he has a coddle, he can do that way more often, way more liberally. I'd say the concern with Ursa here is you just need to make sure you get level 3, maybe level 4. As a carry, he's very weak level 1 and 2. Like, when I say he's weak, I mean that his skills are pretty shit. Like, in terms of, they scale really hard from level 1 to 2. Obviously, his Q doesn't scale nearly as hard, but Fury Swipes basically doubles, and it does double in damage, and it also increases in reset time. So, in comparison to his, like, level 4, 5, 6, Ursa's, like, really bad level 2. So it's all about, like, notice how all of his creep aggro was all about avoiding mind control in this case. Pretty much every creep aggro he's used was defensive. And that's, like, recognizing that his hero's in, like, the build-up stage. You need to identify whether or not you're the strong one, level 1 and 2, comparatively, and, or, if, like, when you're going to be strong. And so we're probably going to see an instant swap in mentality when he thinks he's strong, right? It could be level 3, it could be level 4, it could be level 5. It really boils down to his understanding of this matchup. And something you can learn as a player watching when you're trying to learn a hero is see when people think they're strong and when they play aggressive or defensive. But clearly, just by watching this replay, I can tell, even if I'd never played Ursa before, wow, Ursa must be kind of weak level 1. Look, he's been playing defensive aggro this entire time. So they see Earth Spirit far away. So the threat of Earth Spirit in this lane is that he's basically counter initiation when Ursa commits. And if Ursa commits with Q and then gets rolled on and hit by a bunch of trees, it's just going to be a negative trade. So notice how the second he gets level 3, second point in the Earth Shock, they utilize the Coddle plus Ursa combo to get a kill. So in this case, I believe the second point in Q is attributed to the fact that he has Coddle. He can afford to spam it much more than usual. CM would probably be similar, but not quite as much, obviously. He does end up dying for it, but that looks like really crazy good micro by Mind Control, so more so like impressed with Mind Control's play rather than like, wow, Matu played bad there. Notice how hard they hit that level 3 timing though with Ursa. Like, they were ready to go the second they got it. So at this stage, notice how he doesn't really feel like he's good just trading with Nature's Prophet. Nature's Prophet's like a poke hero, right? He's going to constantly harass you down. So rather than sitting there farming, letting Nature's Prophet poke him down, he doesn't win the trade war. He wins the I try to go on you and kill you, force you away from me war. And so that's how he's chosen to play this lane. There's multiple ways to win a lane. If you're the Prophet, you're obviously going to avoid the Ursa as much as possible and kind of like kite him around, poking him. The damage, but notice how they're pretty much going to look for every kill opportunity they possibly can. Coddle Ursa, very heavy kill lane.
What have we here?
So, Wraithband first. Notice how in the early stages he's kind of like passive farming, right-clicking creeps. First item Wraith Band. Now he's in like aggressive mode. Boots. People ask about like Wraith Bands and stuff. What are you doing with your hero? Are you right-clicking creeps? Are you right-clicking heroes? Are you needing movement speed? What do you need? All of his timings line up with his items, right? It all makes sense when you think about it this way. The opponent has a stacked big camp and they pulled it, which is kind of annoying. Notice how often they're like trying to threaten the opponent, right? These are all just like, basically, I would almost view this as regen, because the more often you're aggressive on heroes that trade well with you, the less often they can just continuously poke you down. And that basically saves you health. He's like saving health by being aggro as hell. Yep, forcing the Nature's Prophet to TP away again. Just notice the regen problems he has, right? Oh, his courier just got killed by mind control TPing behind. That's annoying. So they know he's here, and they know he TP'd away just a second ago. So they knew he had no teleport scroll or global teleport. So they were looking to punish with Nisha's rotation. Obviously nice for any mid laner to rotate to a kill lane, which Coddle Ursa very much is a kill lane, as we talked about. I would say it's not very likely for the enemy team, on the other hand, to rotate to the Prophet Earth Spirit, not really the kill lane in this case. So it kind of makes sense with their pick of TA, right? A hero that doesn't naturally really rotate.
I could do this all day.
So it's kind of interesting when you can play that out in your head. I voice my thoughts, and I'm like, oh yeah, it makes their draft make a lot more sense and shit. People do think about this kind of stuff when they're drafting. The best captains in the world consider so many factors. And as an Ursa, with a Coddle, he does want to participate much more in the mid game, because even though he just expended a TP and a decent amount of mana to contribute, which most of the time you'd be like, fuck, I have no mana now, he can just walk right back to his lane and get his mana back from his Coddle. So that's a rotation where I think to myself, what's the negative impact of this rotation? And usually it's like time, mana usage, potentially health loss, all that kind of stuff. And in this case, as Ursa, I would usually be hesitant to rotate because that TP plus Q costs so much mana. And in a game like this, I'm much more willing to rotate because worst case scenario, I walk away and I get my mana back. So he's choosing to contest this big camp rather than the creeps underneath tower. The cool thing about that contest of the big camp that I've noticed, even though he's giving up creeps under tower, look at his pathing. So like he chooses to go this way, and he's actually getting XP from these creeps as they're dying. So he's basically getting the farm of a big camp while getting the half of the big camp XP and the normal XP of a creep wave. So he's effectively like losing this gold, but he's taking this gold from the Prophet, which makes it like double value. And he's getting all the XP. He's basically like double dipping. So I've noticed this is kind of cool if I feel strong enough to contest the big camp, that if you can play with an XP range of your own creeps dying under tower, kind of like maximize your efficiency in the laning stage. Obviously, it's on heroes that are much stronger in the early game. I'd say usually Ursa has mana problems where he can't really utilize Overpower as well as Earth Shock, but since he has the Coddle, he's willing to use both. A lot of times when you're playing for like the optimal efficiency or skill build, like ideally you'd want both Earth Shock and Overpower, but usually you can't afford it. But if you can afford it, why not get both? So that was a nice rotation away from bottom, because since he's the kill hero and they have a Chin and a Nature's Prophet, they're naturally going to be putting a lot of pressure on towers. And as a carry, if you're a kill hero but you're also trying to farm, you can kind of just put yourself in front of towers. Like, I'm not saying he's running around these towers to get kills, but what I'm saying is he is strong and he's just putting himself in front of towers. This is the point where it's like he's letting his support get bottom. His mid laner's like this rotating type hero. So a lot of times as a carry, when that's like the description of the game, you'll actually rotate your farm towards the mid lane and make sure you're defending the tower. So something I complain about with carries a lot in my games, and it's hard to like explain in the middle of a game, is when they're hitting jungle creeps rather than defending that mid tower. By him being a kill hero, it makes him defending the tower more impactful if he's in farm mode, because the opponent is too scared to kill the tower with one hero. So they're either going to have to commit like 3 or not kill it at all. In this case, the pace of the game going much faster than we would hope. Seems like he's still kind of deciding on what item he wants to go.
Radiant's middle tower has fallen.
He actually queues up
Radiant's
a
top
Yasha
tower
first.
is under attack.
A lot of times I've been seeing Ursa's pretty much always prioritize a Battle Fury first. In this game, he doesn't need the mana regen component of the Battle Fury, so it's not as great. But then also, he's really forced to be running around responding to what the opponent's team is doing. So even though this game's much faster paced than most of you would see in any of your pubs, any of you really, in any pub, his idea is, yes, I want this farming item, but I'm forced to participate in this game earlier than I would like to.
Radiant's top tower is
So I'm going to go items that are pretty good at efficiency, but
Radiant's
also
bottom tower is
a
under
bit
attack.
of participation.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Radiant's bottom tower has fallen.
See, like, if he wasn't a part of this, they just would not be able to kill this Riki, right? So he just has no choice but to participate in this game, because the opponent has heavy snowballing heroes with the Riki TA, and they also have this, like, Riki kill hero with a threat with, like, a global presence of a Nature's Prophet. So what I mean is, his team can't recover by just farming. They have to actually be able to fight. So as a carry, sometimes when games are really bad like this, you have to choose between recovering in a way that allows you to actually participate, because your team will have to fight them because the opponent will just pick you off. Or if the opponent's like heavy team fight, you can look to like stall out the game but also build farming items, kind of like Arteezy did in the replay of Void that we did in our other video, where the opponent had like Lunas and Earthshakers, like very heavy team fight. So their option was to dodge fights. In this case, the enemy team's a lot about pick-off, and they have to be able to fight the opponent if they run into them. He goes for the Yasha first, but he still does go for that efficiency item in the Battle Fury. Buys the Ring of Health first.
Radiant's
Damage on
middle
Ursa,
tower
really
is
not
under
that
attack.
important. Like, if you can buy the Broadsword and Little Hammer first, that's great. But the health regen is, especially in this game, the most important part. If you can, you go Perseverance with it, but like you go the full Voidstone too. But in this game, he has Coddle, so not nearly as important.
Dire's top tower
When you're behind,
are scanning.
pretty much naturally results in playing in the triangle. That's where the fights are going to happen. So notice how like the opponent's invading. I talk about map movements all the time.
Radiant's bottom
Everything
tower
they're going to
is
do
under
that
attack.
results in a fight on secret. It's basically like be ready to fight when you're on the top half of the map. Make sure you don't casually feed on the bottom half of the map. So, like, bottom lane is the dead lane feed lane, so if you're going to die, you're dying all alone. Top lane's where you're participating in fights. So notice how his items kind of allow him to do both, because he needs to be ready for both. Kind of like when Arteezy went the BKB, even though he still wanted to farm. He had to be ready to fight. In that case, it was more about team fights. In this game, since it's like Riki TA, it's more about, like, skirmishes, so the Yasha makes a lot more sense. It gives him more move speed. Overall, a little bit of armor, attack speed, you know? That's a skirmish item that allows him to participate. It's all about the form that you have to participate in the game. Notice how none of these are team fights. They're all pick-offs. And that's not something that's like hard to gather if you look at both drafts, right? The team that's ahead is going to dictate what the game is going to be played like. The team that's ahead has a Riki TA and a Nature's Prophet. Very mobile, very split up, single target damage. And here we're going to see, obviously, Secret attempting to contest again and lose. So what I talk to people about, I talked about this in an offlane replay coaching session, offlane coaching session. It was a Centaur coaching session. It was about 3 or 4 weeks before this video, for people who are wanting the reference. I showed him an example of my game where I had a rough laning matchup, and I had to adjust by getting like a Soul Ring and a Wand on Pangolier before going for like any of the javelins and Vlads and stuff that Pangolier goes for. And the whole idea is that every hero has this ideal build. And on Ursa right now, it's Battle Fury. The whole idea is, in Dota, is to understand as best you can what your situation in the game is, build items that allow you to get through every stage of the game, and then eventually you're going to go back to the norm. Like, eventually you're going to work your way towards the ideal standard build for your hero. So in this game, that perfect example is this Yasha before Battle Fury. Yes, he wants the Battle Fury. It's the ideal item, but he knows, based on his like knowledge and skill in the game, that he doesn't have the luxury to just rush a Battle Fury. So like that example means like Wraithbands in the laning stage, Juan in the laning stage, a Yasha in the mid game. It's all about understanding like what your role is at that given stage in the game, buying the items to get through each stage, and then eventually
Anyone here know what a
returning
dead
to
lane is?
normal.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack. Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Consider yourself lucky.
So yeah, all they can really do is hope that Team Nigma is a little bit too aggressive when they're being aggressive. Because that's what Team Nigma's lineup does. And it's all about them punishing as best they can. So in this case, TA was kind of farming the bottom half of the map, went for a kill on Coddle, and they punished the overextension. I'd say in an ideal world, if you're a farming carry on Radiant, you want to be bottom.
Has fallen to the Dire.
Because that's where the Ancients are. They've actually, in this defensive farming game, look at Secret's Wards. Kind of fascinating, right? But by virtue of doing that, they did give Nigma the Roche pretty much for free. So I guess that's like a real sacrifice they're giving up. But even though they have Aegis, they do have Echo Slam, they have Monkey King ult, they have Coddle ult. Very strong team fight, comparatively to Nigma especially. So they do want to make something happen, it looks like. They're going to find Miracle. Nice cloud by him, and turn around instant TP from Mind Control. And despite the stronger team fight and decent execution from Secret, they're just really far behind right now. And notice how, even though he's going Battle Fury, he's still being a part of this game. And it's like, if you're really far ahead and you're safe to farm and your team doesn't need you, by all means go Battle Fury and just hit creeps. But it's like, if your team does need you, you can still go Battle Fury, like I told you at the start of the game, even though I'd never watched this game before. The nice thing about Ursa Battle Fury is that he can still participate in the game. Maybe he's not going to participate as well, but he can still be a hero. He doesn't just have to avoid fights at all costs.
Radiant structures are fortified.
So even though he bought a Battle Fury, he's still participating, which is nice. Even though they're losing, they kind of have to do this. You can't just try to split push, like I said. So they're actually looking like they're going to punish this overextension from Nigma this time around. The thing I've noticed about the best players in the world, and a lot of like what I flame about NA, is they constantly just do the right thing, and eventually, if the opponent messes up, it gets punished. And what I mean by like hating about NA is like, it feels like in NA, if you're losing, you kind of just give up instead of focusing on the right thing to do. This game looks grim. I was told this was a sick comeback from Secret, no spoilers, whatever. But what I'm seeing here is, if I think about the win condition, the way the opponent's going to play, MATUMBAMAN has adjusted very well in a very hard game. He's stuck to his normal items primarily, but he's made some small adjustments that allowed him to participate in the game when he had to. And just like that Arteezy game, they're always like 1 or 2 fights away from just regaining control of this game. So in this case, they were down by 9k at 15 minutes or whatever. So they're definitely like 2 or 3 fights away from coming back. But that was one. They picked off the 2 big heroes there, bottom. So now we've kind of resulted back to normal. Team Nigma, since they're dire, they're back bottom. Secret's back top. Roche is dead, so the team that's ahead has no problem not playing around it. So Team Nigma will almost certainly try to invade it again, and I assume Secret will be ready. MATUMBAMAN just needs to farm kind of near his team. Notice how he's farming on the same side of the map as his team, but since he has a Battle Fury, he also doesn't want to be with his team all the time. But because they have an outpost, it's nice for his team to fight around here, because their carry that's farming can actually participate. This is cool. I like his farming pattern overall, and they managed to get a good engagement top, forcing a fight, because they are the superior team fight team. Does get clouded, so he's not able to use his ult. Pretty well played, honestly, by Team Nigma there. Okay. And these are the fights exactly you want to force. I'm surprised Nigma honestly gave this to him. But as a carry, notice how his team was playing correctly around top. He was farming away from them, but he was instantly ready to be at the fight. And even though he died in the fight, that was what he needed to do. Going for the Manta, if he ends up completing it, it does make sense. Against Riki, you can pretty much get out of the cloud because you remove the diffusal. You also, when TA blinks on you, Manta's a nice way to basically buy like 3 seconds of time, because she has to find the real one again, and it'll like dodge the melt strike. You remove the TA traps without using ult. Earth Spirit Silence as well. Nature's Prophet probably went Orchid. He didn't go Orchid, but that was possible, I guess. That wasn't part of his consideration for the Manta. I think going first item BKB in this game feels really bad. You'd think like a lot of the things that he could buy, like, or that he's dealing with, could be solved by BKB. But the opponent team has so much physical damage that he could just go BKB and be forced to like BKB ult and then just not do anything. That's what it kind of feels like. They have a lot of kite, a lot of mobility, and a lot of physical damage. So even though he's dealing with silences, he can't afford to go BKB because he can still kind of just die without ulting anyway. He's forced to BKB just to use his ult. So that's what BKB would accomplish for him. So why not go a slightly more luxurious item? And he also already has this Yasha. Okay. I'd say it's definitely his job this game to go in first. I think as a carry when it comes to approaching team fights, it's really important to acknowledge, like, am I supposed to go first, second, third, follow up? Am I, like, counter initiation? In this game, it's kind of his job to get gone on and tank it. And even though he's still a damage dealer, he's an Ursa, right? He needs to set up his Monkey King and Earthshaker, and even the Coddle, to utilize their spells from the back lines. Obviously, Earthshaker and Monkey King get in there, but they start in the back lines. They usually jump in off of somebody else setting up the fight for them. So that's his role in this game, and I like that he's executing that well in team fights. Obviously, Roche, no secret, very big objective. The thing to learn about from this is that this is the ideal way to play Dota, right? These two teams, very good, world-class teams, and all the games we've watched, look how much emphasis is put on Roche, how important this objective is, like how the carries play around it. They never TP bottom. On Dire, they never TP bottom. Even though that's like the good lane, it's like you never TP away from Roche. Suddenly, fights are becoming just slowly but surely easier and easier. But after ult was expended, as well as Monkey King ult is over, it looks like a bit of an overcommitment from Matu there. So it looks like now he's really leaning away from BKB. I honestly agree. So what BKB would offer him as well is True Strike during the Ricky Cloud. Strong mischance on Ricky Cloud, if you were not aware of that. Most people may only know it's a silence. It is also a strong mischance. So, in this case, he's replaced BKB with a Manta MKB. That's kind of what he's going for here. And when you're considering items, notice how my thought is like, this is what the item does for you. It's addressing these specific spells. It's allowing me to do this in fights. So it's like, you know, BKB would allow me to do this, but, you know, BKB feels trash against these heroes, so I'm going to build these items that kind of allow me to do the same thing and also help me against the other heroes. So notice how that was his job. Get gone on, survive it, make the fight kind of chaotic. TA and Ricky, both these heroes that rely on, like, jumping you and killing you instantly, bursting somebody down. So in my opinion, even though Secret has, like, the Earthshaker Echo Slam combo, they're the team that benefits from, like, the initial initiation not killing anybody. Like, they want the fight to break out and then just utter chaos to ensue with nobody dying at the start. That benefits them a lot more. So his whole item build has kind of been about that. So he's been about Battle Fury, you know, into Manta so he can survive the initial jump. And now he's like, now that I've survived the initial jump, because it's my job to go in first, I want to be impactful in the fights. Because, like, in the mid-game, it's acceptable to be the guy that gets jumped. But in the late game, you still need to be the guy that gets jumped. But then you also need to be a massive threat that kills somebody after you get jumped. Or, like, if your team protects you, then you're not just running away with no health. So that's what this MKB is allowing him to do. The cool thing about these really good players, you can just interpret how they see the game by watching their items. Like, this isn't something where I'm saying I would have played this game out and naturally come to the exact same conclusion as him. But by watching him, as someone that's, like, watched a lot of games and analyzed a lot of replays, I've become better and better at just being like, yeah, this is the thought process of the guy I'm watching. This is really cool. Like, I'm basically getting an inside perspective on how he's playing, or what he thinks about this game by his items. So once he gets gone on, gets initiated onto, survives it, and hits them, now the only issue is he might be at like 500 health when he's hitting them. So what item would you naturally want to buy? You want to buy the item that either helps you further survive the initiation, or the item that helps you with that whole turnaround point. And this item actually does both. Satanic. Beautiful. Like, that comes to the right conclusion of the item that he needs to go for. He did TP bottom there. Notice how the one time he TP's bottom, an awkward fight kind of pans out. So maybe a bit of a mistake, maybe a bit of miscommunication from Secret here. Their carry did TP bottom. Nigma punished it really well, but it actually only went 2 for 2. So in my eyes, when I see this, I'm like, maybe he thought they could get away with that. Maybe there was just a bit of miscommunication and it would have been perfectly fine. Maybe they thought they were strong enough to fight without Matu, so he needed to clear this wave. Like, it's still important that he clears bottom, but he being there like that can be potentially very dangerous, as we saw there. Notice how the one time he TP's bottom, the enemy team attempts to punish it immediately. That's why I, discourage people from doing that. I'm trying to prove to you how punishable it is, and it almost proves how good of a situation Secret's in now, because they were able to be punished, and it was only a 2 for 2 engagement. So Satanic done. Aegis is out. So now that Radiant's done playing around bottom and mid because they took the tier 2s. Like I said, the tier 1 bottom and tier 2 bottom on when you're Radiant, pretty much always get taken with that Aegis, right? You take the Aegis, you swing to the bottom half of the map, take tier 1 and 2, and then you swing right back. Very natural map movements. Notice exactly what he's doing with his items. Look at that. Did I not spell out to you exactly what he's thinking with his items? Isn't that cool? And that's not because I'm some fucking genius. It's just some, like, practicing and trying to learn the game of Dota. The beauty is, if I were to watch his game and I was thinking to myself exactly what items I was going to go, and it differed from this, I could then watch how fights play out and be like, wow, Matu saw that. Wouldn't you guys say after watching that fight, you don't have to ask anymore, why did he buy these items? First off, I tried my best to spell it out for you prior to that fight, but then you just got a literal example perfectly shown of what's going to happen. He gets gone on, barely lives with like 500 health, turns around to attack them, and has to man up and get his health back. Boom, right? The MKB. But if he goes Satanic without MKB, then he's not actually hitting anybody. So you may say, like, why MKB before Satanic? Well, the Satanic turnaround mana battle doesn't work if you can't hit them, right? So it's very cool. Something I really enjoy about watching really good players play is to just see it all, the painting come together, see it all make sense. And even though they are down at the very start of the game, or like, not very start, like the first 20 minutes of this game, this is what makes players like MATUMBAMAN world class. They just see it, right? Nisha knows it's going to be a long, drawn-out fight. He knows he doesn't have to be in front. So what was his build? He went for this Radiance first into Manta, right? Like, Manta, same idea as Ursa. The Radiance is all about this long, drawn-out fight. And then he goes for the survivability item with the Halberd, and then he goes for the damage with MKB. It's, like, very similar, but from some different hero's perspective in it, where he's the hero that goes in second, and Ursa's the hero that goes in first. So, really enjoyed this replay. I hope you guys were kind of enlightened by that. Really cool. See it all play out exactly how you envision it sometimes. Yeah, I think there's a lot to learn from watching really good players, man. And the cool thing about it is you can be 1K and learn shit from that. You just have to apply what he did at like a 1.8K level, and then you'll gain MMR. If you Manta and Cloud, you are still silenced. Yeah, but the way he clouds you is he clouds you and diffusals you. So you Manta off the diffusal and run out of the cloud. BSJ house tour win. I'll almost certainly do a house tour when we're all done. The thing is, a lot of the stuff we ordered isn't coming in for like 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. But once we unpack all these bags, I'll probably show you guys. I'm really excited.